Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lotus D channel. Thank you so much for unwinding with me for a bit and sitting down and let's chat for a bit. However, I do want to start off saying thank you, acknowledging a couple of people who have amazingly subscribed to my channel. It means so much to me to see the lift that I've had and shown and the love I've been shown when it comes to what I'm trying to do. And, being authentically myself, it sometimes can get a little bit invigorating and sometimes it can get a little bit exhilarating and it can get a lot of different things. But the biggest thing I think is that I'm just trying to give you guys some good content, hopefully that works for you. And so far, so good. So we're just going to keep it going. How about that? So last week we talked about leadership. We talked about the styles of leadership and how there's like anywhere from 10 plus, but we kind of went over about, you know, three or four of them that really stood out the most. And that's because there's a lot of times where people get lost in the sauce, as they call it, and they kind of get trapped up into thinking that this is the way I'm supposed to be a leader because it's most effective. Either they have this fear mongering thing where they make people very nervous to be there, but feeling like they have to be there, or they have more of a team spirit and they're more collaborative, or they may just have that autocratic situation where it's about me and let's just make it happen. Well, we definitely want to make sure that we remember, and if for those of you who did not, please look at the video before this one. It's part one, or excuse me, it's part two. But this is actually part three. So we've been discussing it for a couple of days now, or a few days, if you will. And I think the biggest thing I want to tell you guys is that when it comes to the outline is to ensuring that you understand why there is an outline and the seriousness of it. I also spoke to writing or typing. It's really all about what you prefer. I do both. I do one for because I don't want to miss anything. Two, because I also want to make sure that I am getting their verbiage that they're giving me and not changing it. Sometimes when I get on the computer or my laptop, I tend to reword or add in, type of and change their sentences. And you really want to go by verbatim for what they're speaking to, because when you have to go back to that and speak about it again to that individual, you want to be able to show them this is what they said. And if it doesn't sound authentically like them, they're going to get a little bit confused, as they should be, because people want you to remember the details, right? So when you don't do that, it just seems like you're trying to make them into something that they're not, and that can cause a lot of confusion. So again, it's very important that we either type according to every single word they use, or we write down what they're looking for. So that being said, it goes back to when they have to do their reviews. It's That's why we do our planning piece, because by writing those outlines, by the time they have the reviews 6 months in, and then the time they have the year end one, depending on where you work at and how that floats, you would want to have something to go back on. So instead of having to think about when something happened, or to think when they told you this, or to check in with your rest of your team, which can be a little bit, well, let's just say it looks like you can't plan. It looks like you're unorganized, and it looks like as though you maybe are rushing in it. And that person, even though you said the whole time throughout the year that they mattered, it's not giving that at all. So we want to make sure we're showing our team that we do care, they care, and we want to make sure they get the best result. And because we're using not only their verbiage, but we're using the outline that we gave them originally. And by doing that, it helps you go over where they're at, even before it's time. People like to ask questions that really want to get far, especially when they want to get to the next level. A lot of times, especially within myself, a little bit of an overachiever, it was important for me to literally say to people, "Oh man, okay." So, I would ask my boss to say, "Hey," or my leader at the time, "Can you tell me where I'm at? Or what do you think I need to do? Or where does there need to be improvement?" And that's like 3 months in. Shorter, depending on how fast it's going, and that was also if there was something going on in the works that I really needed to click into, but majority of the time, it was because I really, really, truly wanted to find out. Um, you know, it's so funny because people always say to me, "We could tell you cared," and that's what every leader, slash, in this case, manager wants to really know. And so I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because I think people get management and leadership confused. Uh, you don't have to be a manager to be a leader. for one thing. But I want to talk about specifically what that means. So a manager, and yes, I'm using notes, guys. I always have them. A manager is a person who is responsible for controlling or administering a part of not just their company, but maybe the organization itself, such as, business dealings. Whereas a leader is the person who leads or commands a group, organization, or country. This is the principal player, the person to go to. They convince others to follow them, whether it be through inspiration or confidence in other people, and then they move them into action. So again, management is more so based on controlling or administering a part of something, whereas leadership is literally getting people to follow you wherever you be. So I guess that makes the difference. And when you think about it this way, there's another scenario, if you will. A manager will manage a group of people at a certain time and then they may maybe leave, or they manage a certain part of a department, or they may manage as in play a key player role when it comes to certain aspirations for a company where they want to be something administered or they want to have control of something, whereas a leader has people follow them and leave when they leave the company. I know, right? You're like, wait a minute, she was your manager? Yeah, okay, but she was also your leader. She was your leader. He was your leader because you were so um, you felt inspired. You felt motivated. As I mentioned earlier, it's a lot of keywords there for you to keep in mind when you think about leading. Do you want to be a manager or do you want to be a leader? And I think that's when it comes back to anyone can manage, and that's what they say. Now, I'm not saying that anyone can manage well, but anyone can manage, but not everyone can lead. So a lot of times you'll hear people say, "Well, what does that mean?" I mean, okay, well, I have people under me, but are your people willing to follow you? Like, let's say there's always in a team, I would say at least depending on the depth of your team, how big is your team? So the depth of your team may be 20 deep, maybe 60 deep, but out of that 20, you may have only two people or three people that are outstanding. When you go on vacation, you leave them in charge because, and that hopefully would be the person who's under you, right? But that's not always the case, but normally it is. But that being said, you have those people, and when you get ready to go, they want to come too. Or and then you have some that are so well at what they do that they're next to come in line. So you already have your succession planning, which is crucial when it comes to management. Definitely you're able to lead. So the planning piece that I spoke of earlier is so important because it helps you play out your whole entire week. You're able to focus on that, but you're also able to like really set the direction. By having that, you're able to tell your team what you're doing every day, who you're speaking with every day. You already have it planned out to know when they're doing their one-on-ones. You have it planned out that so and so has it on Tuesday because maybe they're off on Wednesday, and so and so has it on Wednesday when so and so is off on Friday, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a system that stays the same. There's no reason to change it and keep going up and down because it's one thing about where you work, and who works for you. When you keep going up and down with someone's schedule and changing it out, in and out, in and out for days, they get paid the same day, right? I'm just putting it out there. People get paid generally the same day. It's either the 15th or 30th, or it's every week on a Friday, or every other Friday. That's just the norm, right? Or every other Wednesday. But either way, it's usually really consistent. That's where your consistency has to show as well. You're asking your team to be consistent on making sure they make their quota, or they can be consistent on making sure that they are always on time, or they need to be consistent when it comes to the customer service and how their surveys are, or when it comes to getting if you're in payroll or in HR, there's so much consistency that needs to take place that you too must be the leader of consistency. If you're not, then your team will be like, she asked me to do that and she ain't even on, I mean, she ain't on time. She's never on time. And it's not just that, guys. We have flexibility when you are a manager the majority of the time to set your own time. However, if you should tell your team, I'm going to be there at 11 and something comes up. Are you still going to just make it there at 11? Or will you actually try your best to get there before 11? Even if it's 13 minutes, if it's 30 minutes, it makes a big impact on your team when they need you and you're available. So you do have to be available for your team. Again, it goes back to who are you working for? Well, generally you're working for your customer. And the reason why you're still there and you're doing exceptionally well is because of your team. It's not just because of you. And that's why that humility has to take place. That's why we have to understand the reasons behind when we say certain things to our team, how imperative it is that they understand that we truly do mean thank you when we say thank you. And we're not just saying it because, oh, we had a visit and someone came in and we're like, thank you for all your hard work. I mean, I don't know how I could get past it without you. And they're looking at you like, oh, you're welcome. And then they go into the locker room or by the water cooler. Did I say that last time? Water cooler. And they're like, yeah, there she go. Fake as ever. You can't do that. If you think that your people don't know that when you're doing that, you are sadly mistaken. Okay? They will know when you don't take the time when you're there, even to like do certain things. They're like, she never comes out of that office. What am I supposed to learn? Oh, I'm supposed to learn from what she says, but not what she does. Sweet. She takes longer at lunches. And if you take longer on lunch all the time, that's a question. But if you take longer on lunches every now and then and you tell them why you're taking longer on lunch, it makes a huge difference. I had a manager over me at one point, and all I heard the whole time when I got hired was how that everyone working for them was so disengaged because, when they left and went to lunch, they were gone for more than 30 minutes, more than an hour. Um, it really caused a lot of confusion and a lot of the morale was low because of it. So, and then, the next person has to pick up from them, which was not a problem. It just wasn't fair to me to have to do that. So, again, it's so important that your team sees you for who you are. So, yeah, you still got to be authentically you. But that may mean if you're being authentically yourself and no one's understanding what you're doing and you're not having communication, then that may not be the role for you. It's just a thought. All right, just putting it out there. Because sometimes, we want to make things work because it pays something. It pays a certain amount, and we're like, oh well, it pays this, so and I've done this so much before. When you may have burnout, you're okay. It happens to the best of us. Burnout exists. It really does. And when it happens, take a vacation. You know, and if it turns out to the fact that after the vacation you're still burnt out, then it's change your job, change your position, figure out something else you want to do. Things like that. Um, I think one of the other things that I would say when it comes to being a leader is to not, I plan to the point that I plan for business. You look out for what you have to do for the whole entire month if you have that ability to do that. Most companies, and that's not just retail, they have a certain quota they have to meet or they have certain things they have to do ahead of time. So, one of the things I used to do that was very, very fortunate for me is that I had a list of possible people from another potential, I will say, those who have potential in other stores to be moved around. I was I was only the general manager of my store, even though it was the biggest in the I was gonna say in the continent, in the city I was in the state I was in. I still chose to make sure, being a flagship general manager, that I had that potential list of people. I had a potential list of people within my team. I had a potential list of, working with other people within the area I was in. So if it was a neighboring store or a neighboring sister store or or just another location, or not even something that was affiliate with my brand, but was very similar to my brand, I made sure to network. So networking is huge. I would go by and I would bring little gifts or things of that nature, depending on where I was at the time, that speak to perhaps I just learned so much from building a business and how you can do that. So having a business plan of knowing what the month looks like and being able to speak to that with your team and saying these are the things we did so successfully this day and that day. But you again, you have to come with a purpose. Um, have you ever, I mean, just think about this. What if I came to this conversation right now and I have no idea what I'm talking about? And I just went in and I went live. Y'all are looking at me and I'm looking at you. So how's it going? Yeah, what is on your mind today? And what if no one really said anything? Well, this is what's on my mind. And knowing that not just that I'm certified, because it could be anyone, right, on podcasts, but majority of the time you have a reason why you're on there talking. So, it's like going to a meeting and saying, hey, we're going to have our meeting. And they're thinking they're going to have the same meeting they've had before, prior, because it's consistent, because you're consistent, totally different than if you're not. They have no clue. If I go, what are we going to talk about today? Did you send an agenda? All those things go in play when it comes to management, but even more so leadership. So, for those of you who are listening who really want to get to the next level, plan to plan. Whatever the role is that you see that you want next, dig deep as much as research. Find out what they're doing. Ask questions. Ask your manager questions. Ask your leader questions in this case. How do you lead successfully? I see that when you came on board, you brought two people with you. Wow, that's amazing. How did you do that? Was it because y'all just got along, or was it because they liked your leadership style? And the majority of the time is because they liked the leadership style and they felt they could trust. And they felt not only just that they could trust, but they knew that when you spoke something, you meant it. And they knew how much you cared. So they wanted to continue that because you can't find that all the time, right? Out here, it's just sometimes it's just hard. You can't, you look for that same person. You lose that really amazing individual and you're like, I knew you were going to leave. That would be me. I was like, so I would just basically just really, really just ask so many questions from my leaders because I really wanted to learn so much. And I had the pleasure of meeting some amazing people in my lifetime that really have helped me to grow and have that growth mindset that's needed in order to get to that next level. But also, it's important to study up, have emotional intelligence, being able to speak to behaviors that you see whether it be in sales, but majority of the time, of course, it's people. Because anytime you're going to be a leader, it involves being a leader of what? Of people. So you want to really get to know your audience, really be able to speak to that. It's going on 18 minutes. This has gone a little bit over, so I apologize for that, guys. But I really do thank you for listening. Hopefully, it helped you with the planning piece. It helped you a little bit with understanding the difference between a manager and a leader, and how managing one thing is one thing, but not leading people is totally different. It involves more emotional intelligence. So, anyway, I won't keep you guys any longer than that. Thank you so much for again tuning in, and as always, keep that light bright.